Okay, looks like we're live. Um, so this is my just brief overview of the first draft I have for Sevenfold Palace Honor, because I told a few people I would do it. I will have example games going, but I will not be doing them immediately. They'll come probably in the next day or two, just because I've got things to do. I might get some up tonight. Who knows? Um, so I'm just going to go through the deck and sort of I'll go through the obvious concepts of the deck, but then I'll go through the card choices themselves because I know there's going to be quite a lot of disagreement with some choices. In some cases, people might be right. Like this is a first draft. This is honestly just a bit of a test case. I have played a couple of games with it today, just as like testing. I beat Dario's. I had a game where I sort of played really badly, and then we just restarted the game against Dario's Lion HNS. Where turn two he bid one to my five, and I was still at like over 20 honor at the end of the turn, but probably in a lot of trouble. Game two I beat him, so it's a sample size of one realistically, but maybe two, like a 1-1. But it was beating a good player on an established deck, so there's potential there. There's some issues with matchups maybe as well. So I'm just going to go through the lot of it as we go. So obviously the idea is we're winning by honor with this deck. Like if you're not trying to win by honor, I don't think Sevenfold Palace is great. Like you could use it just to offset losses. So up your number of assassinates, increase your bids. Use it sort of like Scorpion of abused City of the Open Hand now and then, but it's a lot worse than City of the Open Hand. And I don't think that's the best way to play the deck. Like I think if you want to actually fight people, Kyuden Kikita, sorry, is still the better option. So we are currently in a bit of a weird state with provinces and the sort of face-up-ish theme that you might see on a couple of cards. Um, Contested Countryside comes out with this pack, so I don't want provinces that are just going to like screw me up. I don't want to get fucked by my own provinces, um, but I do and I also want to play this card. I'll go into it a bit more later, but starting with the two provinces face up just makes this card actually worth playing. With pack 6, we get Doji Diplomat that goes in here, and that makes this and also another slot we'll talk about later a lot better, I think. Um, but for the meantime, we're running Rich Frog and Suma as our eminent provinces, so we start with two face up. It does mean people are just going to attack Suma first and Rich Frog second. Like, that's going to happen. So we got, like, Magistrate Station and Shameful Display. Shameful Display is, like, Contested Countryside negates your Shameful Display, but that's about all it really does. And if they don't see it, it's still a really, really important card for Crane, to be honest. So we're keeping that in. Magistrate Station is a lot harder for other people to abuse with Countryside, and really easy for this deck to abuse. And then I needed a water province, so I'm not sold on this at all. Especially if they have Countryside, they just flip it back. Like it's not ideal, but it's something I don't like. I think Revels is not great in this deck probably, and Revels, if you do have the highest guy, it becomes air quotes force reaction. Uh, if your opponent has Countryside, so there's sort of a weird dance around Contested Countryside going on here that I'm not super happy with the provinces as the deck currently stands. What I'm not running, you'll notice, is Daidoji Marketplace, which I do kind of want a spot for, um, just to get this Magistrate Station face up. But it's inconsistent, especially with two eminent provinces, and like with pack 6 we're putting the Diplomat in, so at the moment I just don't think we worry about it for now. That's also the reason I'm just going to jump down here. I've got Political Rival, which is a very good card and does help you go win conflicts easier. But I don't like the cost of Rival, and actually once we have the Diplomat in, that's going to be the 1 cost 2/2, the local daimyo's rival. It's not like bad. Like I think he hasn't been given a fair due because at the moment he's sort of a late game character. But if you're on 2 Eminent and then some Diplomats, you can get him from turn 1 basically. And a 1 cost 2/2 from Conflict Hand is actually really quite good. So the idea of the deck, we have to win conflicts as attackers in order to get our triggers off the stronghold. So we can't just put in Honor Gain and do whatever. But at the same time, we start back on 10 Honor, so what I have also done is basically put in just jammed in as much Honor Gain as I can. So we're on the water roll. There's a lot of argument about what roll Honor should be on and what cards are good. The reason I like water roll is the sort of, it's not for any one card, it's for the little package. So Captivating Story and Way with Words are both really good in this deck. So even from turn 1 before we have Doji Diplomat, Captivating Story is at least a +2 political. So it's like a fan, which isn't super amazing, but it can also honor your character. So if you run like, if you couldn't buy a guy from Suma, you run into their province and they, you know, with like a court games in hand, and they court games you down, you can actually, it's an extra way of honoring yourself. So our ways of honoring, 3 Captive Story, 3 court games, 2 Game of Sedani, we'll go into this a little bit more, and 3 Wear the Crane. And obviously like Suma and Firing and also Callow Delegate. So in my testing, like you only need 1 honored character. It's not like Voice of Honor where you constantly have to keep your honored characters up. You only need 1 honored character, and there shouldn't be many reasons you can't keep 1 honored character in this deck. I'm a little bit all over the place with some of this explanation, I think, so, but that's fine. So we're talking about honouring our guys. So those are all our forms of honouring our guys. I mentioned about all the little pings of honour. So obviously our stronghold is a ping of honour. Any honoured character dying is another ping of honour. So all those cards are honoured guys are great. I'm sort of testing the 2 Storyteller. You know, whatever. Brash Samurai honors, Callow Delegate honors. This could probably be Core Hotaru, or it could be a split between Hotarus. I haven't decided what I'm doing with that, because Core Hotaru, in theory, is like 2 honor gain. Resist Girl is probably less honor gain, but is more able to force the conflict win. Because if your opponents have to play cards to try and win the conflicts, then they're giving you honor anyway. So generally, with this Hotaru, you can just push into them and know they're not going to play any cards. Whereas with the other Hotaru, you push into them and they will work really hard to defend it. Asami pings for an honor. Bonsai Gardens ping for honor. And the main strategy with this, what else? Yeah, Deceptive Offer is let me win the conflict or give me an honor. Generally, cards that give options to your opponent aren't good, but in this case, it's like a lot of the time the choice is give me 1 honor or give me 2 honor. And then if you're playing it as your first cards in the conflict, you can bait your opponents into giving you the honor and then just buffing your guy anyway and still winning, and then that's great. It costs cards doing that, but you can gain a lot of honor really fast in this deck. So the other little package we've got in here is just a hint of dueling, because Kikita Blade gives you an honor when you win a duel. Yajitsu Master just gives you an honor for being in a duel. Both, again, are little pings of honor. Way with Words, sorry I didn't mention, obviously is steal an honor when you win. So we need to run enough duels for these to be worth it. Now, Dynasty side, I'm running a Cunning Negotiator, who's a bit of an expensive duelist, and actually not that good in this deck, because, I mean, Magistrate Station and Shameful Display is really all she's getting, but she's there to proc the attachments. The same with Yuri. Yuri's actually not bad. If you attack political air with, like, a bunch of stuff that gains you honor as you attack political air, like, your opponent might often have to defend, and then being able to just stop them doing a military back use slows. It's like a waning hostilities almost. She's also a good defender versus HMT as long as they don't have Yasamura. But yeah, so and we've also got like 2 Gamer Sedani, 3 Return the Offense. I think having played the deck a bit, I can probably drop 1 or 2 of this like little pocket 5, just for something cheaper, because I'm buying a lot of expensive characters. So the basic tactic with this deck is turn 1, you're going to bid 5. So if your opponent, like you have lots of ways of winning fights, and these characters aren't small. Like any of these mid-range characters, you honor them, which there's loads of ways of doing it. You honor them, and you can start smashing face. Like, there's no harm in sending Hotaru into a military conflict. She's 6 strength if she's honored. Little things like that. So if your opponent 1-bids you, you lose 4 honor, and you will probably gain, like, this deck gains more than 4 honor a turn. Until it's run out of hand, it's going to gain more than 4 honor a turn anyway. So you 5-bid anyway, like, and if your opponent has card disadvantage, great. Just go punch him in the face anyway. You want to attack air probably every turn. Like, whatever chance you have to attack air, you just go attack air. Lets you trigger Bonsai Gardens, it's 2 honor a turn. If you try and get to 25, that's what you have to do. After you've done your political air, because I find it hard to believe any matchup can seriously challenge you in a political fight. So for example, if like turn 1 you buy Asami and like Asahina Artisan, like if Asami's or Asami and Doji Whisperer say, so that's 6. If you honor Asami, that's 8. Chuck in Deceptive Offer and a Court Games or a Captivating Story, like you're getting to high political stats just straight off the bat that your opponent's not going to be able to deal with generally. So you're going to go win your 1 political conflict turn pretty much most of the time. And hopefully it's air. After that, you want to stem any bleeding that your opponent can do. And when I say bleeding, I mean losing provinces or losing much honor or cards. There's not always huge amounts you can do, and sometimes they're going to slide through, but I don't think that will have a huge impact, except in a few matchups, because they still have to focus on stopping you just winning the game by swinging at their stronghold, by swinging at their provinces. So the sort of rest of each turn, other than your 1 big political conflict, is very much you have to play it by ear. It's not often I get a second conflict off, or not like a good second conflict. I'll do one just to force your opponent to defend sometimes, but otherwise you're focused on your 1 conflict turn and just making the most of the honor gain you can. If your opponent refuses to fight you, you're probably gaining a lot of honor anyway. If you know they're refusing to fight you, you can always drop back and defend instead. You don't get your stronghold, but you get most of your other, like, you still ping loads of honor gains on defense, like Deceptive Offers and Way with Words and your dueling packages. They all still work when you're defending, so that's the basic gist of this deck. When this gets posted to YouTube, I'll put a link to this version of the deck down below. What I'm actually going to do is just play a series of games soon. I'm going to play a series of games with the deck, see what we like, see what we don't like, see what we can sort of adapt to. There are other splash options. Splash options change the roll as well. And depending how this goes depends on whether we can really stick with this splash or not. I quite like it just because it's not just splashing for Wayward Words, although realistically that's what we're doing. Taking the water splash gives us sort of political banzai that is an extra honor effect for our characters, and it also gives us deceptive offer, which I kind of like. I think it's quite. It might just be cute, but I think it's quite cute out of Sevenfold Palace. The other splash options I'll consider if this isn't going that well would be a Lion deck with Honored Blades for more honor ping. The Honored Blades sort of do the same thing as Wayward Words, and then some other Lion card. There's also just Crab Splash where you just do the Common Cause and whatever, so you can stick your guys in all the conflicts. And Common Cause with Callow Delegates kind of cute as well. That gives you like mid conflict phase sacrifice, so if you are high on honor, you're doing quite well. The deck's missing maybe one key staple that you might notice, which is no Kami. So no Seeker Kami or Keeper Kami. I can't remember the name of the characters. So obviously the Seeker one is the good one. So when you're attacking with your Seeker Kami, you attack with air, you drop your Seeker Kami, that's just another 2 honor straight off the bat. However, we're playing Keeper at the moment, partly for the influence for the splash we're doing, but also just playing with Contested Countryside, it's really good. Like, no one's going to suggest this is anything but really good. There is a possibility to switch this to a Seeker deck. You drop the influence, so you'd probably be going Seeker of Void, Air, or Fire. And then you take less stuff, but you take the Seeker Kamis. But you lose Contested Countryside, so that's sort of a weird one. So I'll just run through each of the cards like really quickly. Athena Artisan is a weird one. It's mainly because I wanted 8 1 costs. I think 8 is a really nice spot for 1 cost. So we've already got the 3 Callow Delegates and the 3 Whisperers, which we don't need to talk about because they're quite obvious. The Artisan is it's effectively another Doji Whisperer that you don't have to commit to the conflict till it matters. He hasn't seen much play since Cycle 1, but it's still a good, especially as we're trying to win conflicts, it's just another way. It's 3 stats for 1 cost. If you don't use it, you get to use it as a defender, even if it's just to stop unopposed honor, or it's exactly the same as you use Ancient Master for. You end up sitting at home and you have 2 glory to take the favor. If you buy it out of Sumer, it's a 2/2 straight off the bat as well, which is fine. I think that slot's actually okay. The next slot is maybe a bit up in the air. Asahina Storyteller, I don't know how often I would buy her. It's mainly if the game's dragged a little bit, you probably end up with a board where you have 3 or 4 honored guys dying in one go. And if that's not going to win you the game, just chucking her out so you draw like 3-4 cards off it might be enough to tip the scales in your balance there. Brash is just for the honor, Callow Delegates or 1 cost and honors. Cunning Negotiator is pretty much only for the Duelist package. It's also 5 political, 2 glory courtier with rally, and helps the Duelist package. Like, everything about it's quite just sort of. It's not amazing in the deck, but every bit of it works quite well in the deck. I already spoke about Hotaru's. I think there's an option to run 2 of one and 1 of the other. I'm not going to do that just yet. I'm going to see how much I feel she's really doing for me like this. Whisper's 1 cost. Asami is fairly obvious as well. She steals honor. She's good. Yuri we kind of mentioned. She's part of the dueling package, but she does force your opponent to play around her a little bit. and anything that forces your opponent to play a bit less optimally is probably good. I've just seen. Sorry, I don't know how long ago you sent that, Jess. Lioness Jess has asked in chat. Thoughts about Miyako versus Deceptive Offer. Um, Miyako is a really good card, and can also give the sort of stands that we mentioned. What Miyako doesn't really do is help us. She doesn't really help us win the conflicts. She gives them slightly less stats, but like it's definitely a card to consider over Deceptive Offer. But hopefully, when I get some of these games in, um, you'll see Deceptive Offer is just subtly good enough in this deck compared to like it's not a good card outside of probably this deck, but it does quite a bit of work, and I don't think Miyako doesn't advance our win condition. She just sort of is really strong um, as a card, but or at least for the first draft, we want to be leaning into gain as much honor as possible in every sort of card and location we can. So if we find that we've got enough honor gain, but we really need some sort of more stand or extra ways to trigger Callowed Delegate or ways to handle other dishonor decks, other honor decks is relevant as well. I'll talk about matchups in a second. She might be more useful than Deceptive Offer there, but I think for now I'm happy with that. What are we looking at? Oh yeah, Master of the Court is like this card might not have a place in the deck, but it's out in the same pack, and it's a uncancelable cancel. So like I can't voice and have my opponent react with censure. Like I just fire this off and it's done. But it does waste our honor tokens. But on the other hand, it has covert, which helps us win those conflicts. So it's a bit of a toss up, that one. Yeah, that slot's definitely open. I definitely don't run good cards. I toyed with Height of Fashion in this deck. That's how I feel about good cards. Lost Papers is obvious. Bonsai Garden, I like the pings, and it also works. So if your opponent swings with air at you to try and drain you of honor, the garden sort of offsets the honor that they're going to drain. And if you have multiple, then like them attacking you with air is not great. Still important to stop you doing it, but it's really not great for them. Contested Countryside, obviously, and then Tea House is. There's a lot of courtiers. Tea House is pretty important because we have no other attachment control. What we also have here between Rich Frog and then 3, 6, 9, like 9 rally cards and Rich Frog, we see a lot of our Dynasty deck, which makes it a lot more consistent. So like Rich Frog isn't a great province, but what it does here is get us to the really key cards. So the key cards really are Yuri Asami and Bonsai Garden. Like out of all of these, those 3 are the sort of keyest of all the cards. So just blitzing through to get to them faster is good. Conflict deck-wise, I've spoken quite a bit about Captivating Story. It's a force pump. It can also honor your character. It can also surprise honor a character. Like by taking your fate off, you can get a honor that they maybe thought you weren't going to get during the turn. That is way more niche than this sort of other options, but still good. One sort of a throwaway one-off censure. I think this is probably quite bad in the deck. I don't think when I'm focusing so much on one conflict a turn, I don't think I'm going to get the favor that much. I throw it in because of the high glory, but this is probably going to have to be something else. Checking that I don't deck myself Kokita to Takashi is definitely something that can happen, and I think with all the rally and everything going around right now, there's a potential that someone might put together a mill deck that just randomly wins games. This deck is pretty fast. The idea being that you shouldn't be winning really later than turn 3, which means you wouldn't get milled. But there is definitely an option to just get it milled out. I'm really aggressive with Dynasty deck. However, if you do get milled, it's never going to lose you the game with this deck, I don't think. You lose 5 honor. I had a game, I mentioned it like really early, but I don't think, sorry for anyone watching on YouTube, but for anyone watching on Twitch who didn't catch a start. I played a game where I was on like 20 honor, I was at maybe 18, 19 honor against Lion HNS, and I bid 5 on turn 2 to their 1 bid, and at the end of turn 2 I was still up in the early 20s. Like, that gains a lot of honor, so I'm not too fussed about getting decked out. 3 court games, fairly obvious. Deceptive Offer, I've probably spoken too much about now. The one of Elegance and Grace is to test. It's expensive, but like, if you can use it to stand like a Sami and Yuri after doing a big fight, you're in a pretty good spot. For Shane, just because I have a bunch of courtiers, and you know, I'm still trying to win conflicts. It's quite an important thing to remember. So I can't just put in loads of honor. So for Shame is like a bit towards that. Game of Sedani and Return the Offense. Return the Offense to act as like a pseudo stand, but they're also to make my dual package worth it. I'm not sure how good either of these are, or what sort of, how many of each I need to be running, because I can only use Jitsu Master and Kikita Blade once a turn each. So I might be able to just drop on these jewels as well. But that's all they're really there for. They're the best options to do this, I think, because they both still play into the game plan a bit. I'm running 1x Wealth of the Crane. It's probably wrong, but once we get Doji Diplomat, I think it's a lot better than it is now. But even if you sort of pay 2 for the effect, you're already stacking a lot of guys on your provinces. Being able to put exactly who you want into Suma, maybe putting your Bonsai Gardens on a already broken province for the turn so that your opponent can't snipe them out. You know, lots of little weird plays. Like being able to put cards exactly where you want is really strong. I don't know if the cost is worth it, but I'm testing the one out. I played the one in like the one test game I played prior to this video, and it was, well, it would have been good if I'd paid attention to the fact that he had season, but it fetched out like 2 Bonsai Gardens as well. So if he hadn't had season, like that was just going to be another 2 honor for free out of the turn. Voice of Honor, Way of the Crane, no one needs to talk about them. Our little jewel package for Pings of Honor, more Pings of Honor. Steward of Laws, really good. He doesn't help them take off your honored status tokens, but he works with the For Shame, and I like 1 cost. There's an argument he could be Young Harrier, so I can't lose all my honored tokens, but I really don't like dishonoring a character. Yeah, like I think there's an argument, like Takashi said in chat. I think there's an argument that this could be Young Harrier. There's also an argument that this could be Young Harrier now rather than Political Rival, and then I can worry about who I want to be a 2/2 next pack. Linus Jess has pointed out, yeah, Yojitsu Master only goes on duelists, and my 2 duelists have printed jewels. So yeah, I do think the Political Rival is probably the weakest link of this deck. So I think like I'm gonna get some games in with it as it is, but probably this will be a very early change. Censure is likely to be a change. Like the stuff that I'm at like 1-ofs and 2-ofs is stuff that I'm obviously not sure on and will probably change. And I think this is. I think the Dynasty deck is fairly tight, but there are a few tweaks, like Master of Court might not be worth it. Storyteller might not be worth it. I will. Are there any questions left in chat? If I was on air roll, as Takashi said, if I was on air roll with Soul Beyond Reproach, Harrier is way better because I honor my guys, and then I can just Soul Beyond Reproach that Harrier anyway. And then all my guys are just cool. They're permanent honored. I do lose this honor effect. Like I trade Captivating Story for Soul Beyond Reproach. That's sort of 6 of one, half a dozen of another. I think. I don't think that's a massive thing either way. I like that this can do something without costing me fate. So yeah, I'm gonna get some games in with this over the next day or two. I'll stream the games and like post when I'm streaming the games, but they'll go up on YouTube as well. And then after like a few days, we'll revisit what we've got here because I'm not going to change anything until at least I've had a few games in, and we'll revisit and have a look at any changes I've put in. So thanks for watching this, and hopefully we'll get some games up on the channel soon. Yeah.